Just gonna post this to Twitter. And there we go. Yeah, and here too. Yep, we're done. So yeah, good day to everyone, and everyone who I suppose may be watching this in the future. I know not many people will, but I think these English streams are a good opportunity to practice speaking in a language in which I have pretty much zero opportunity to practice otherwise. Well, I do occasionally get an interview with some game developers, but it's never a real conversation. I mean, they are not really interested in any meaningful conversations, so I just usually just throw my questions at them and get boring answers. So yeah, my spoken English is really not that good. I think I am getting rusty, but well, once in a while, once in a few months, it's good to have these streams. So in the background, I'm gonna be playing Final Fantasy XIV. I need a couple, oh, not a couple, I need one more run of Delubrum, and I think I'm gonna queue for it now. I pick Final Fantasy XIV for the background game because, well, it's a game that's pretty okay to idle in. I know it by heart, so I don't really have to think while playing it. And yeah, I mean, I think my previous talking streams were had Train Valley 2 and I think Civilization in the background. I didn't really get to play those, so yeah, I'm not too good at playing games and talking in English at the same time. It's easier in Russian, but yeah, talking in English requires a bit more thinking, so let's see how this goes. Interviews are fun only when both parties are interested. Yeah, but the game developers usually aren't, since they, well, what's the word? Wholesale? They get like 10 interviews a day and every day when the PR season arrives, and they get the same questions, and they are likely taught by their PR departments to just say the right things. And I honestly can't remember the last time I had an interview with some developer who was really fun to talk with. Ooh, let me think. Well, from back in the day, I can easily remember two developers who were really enthusiastic about their work, who seemed like living, breathing people and not, just talking heads, just PR department under the mask of a famous developer. and those were Ed Boon and Jordan Mechner. I think I've talked to them both in 2008. Boon was promoting MK versus DC Universe, and Mechner was in Moscow for Prince of Persia tour. And yeah, they both seemed like real people. They both seemed genuinely excited about their games and their next projects. They were eager to talk about, talk some off topic. Yeah, those two were pleasant guys. In contrast, Ray Muzica of BioWare was the most rigid and boring PR person I have ever met in my life. So recently I've talked to two people. One was Hidetaka Miyazaki, and another was co-founder of Turtle Rock Studio. And well, you can't really have a robust, lively conversation when you're speaking through a translator. It's just not possible. So Miyazaki was kind of out of the question, but he did give some good answers. He did give some interesting perspective, so I don't mind too much. The Turtle Rock guy, though, oh boy, nah, that was a terrible interview. What do you need to do to get the A3 destination to Gangos? What? I think you just need to attune to A3 at Gangos. Or maybe you need to attune to every Aetherit in Doman Enclave. Not sure. Okay. I wonder how many people gonna chime in compared to your usual streams. Oh, I'm not expecting a lot. I think maybe 20 to 30 people are gonna come instead of usual 50 to 100. But that's fine. Oh, let's see. Gufran, who's also an interviewer, says, it's the opposite for me in my sphere, and most of the fighting game community guys don't get interviews too often, so they usually are very earnest. One of my biggest interviews was with a Killer Instinct tournament organized, and it was longer than an hour. Sounds great, yeah. I don't doubt for a moment that esports people are much more interested in talking with you, as they don't really get to talk a lot otherwise. How to play on Scholar? I think that may be a long answer. I'm not an expert Scholar player. I just mostly do it for variety. I prefer White Mage and Astrologians, so. But Delubrum doesn't really need that much, thought. It plays itself mostly, since by now everyone knows how to beat it. It doesn't require too much healing, so I can't even show you how to play Scholar, because there is no challenge here. What did I miss? So, no, nothing really. We just began. If there are any topics you would like me to talk about, please mention them. And yeah. I keep forgetting if there are any game developers I enjoyed talking to, but I don't think so. So we can talk about how the past 10 to 15 years have been an absolute mistake. That's one of my favorite topics, video game wise. Video games. Oh my god, I'm terrible. I am terrible. I'm sorry for my English. I know I'm not doing okay. As a tank main, I prefer a white mage over anyone else. I prefer to see the damage I'm dealt. Oh my god, I just looked. Well, yeah, that was bad timing on my part. Anyway, I can just lay down. As I prefer to see the damage I'm dealt and then to see it healed rather than being prevented by shields. And white mage is all about heals. Yeah, but it does have a shield, and white mage's shield is actually instant and free, and it heals you for like it prevents 15% of your wow. Okay, I just said this was easy, and then everyone went and died like morons. Fuck me. Goodbye, guys. Goodbye. Yeah. I don't have MP to heal you. We're almost done though. Electrostal sends hi. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this year, and I think generally in the past several years, we've seen a lot of remakes and remasters and sequels that have been either released or are going to be released. So there is one sequel that's been out for like a month, and is a sequel to The World Ends With You, and another sequel that I cannot talk about yet, but you kind of get the picture. And both are sequels that were like 15 years in the making, and both are on par or a bit worse in regards to The World Ends With You, definitely, than the originals. And I think it would be absolutely impossible for that kind of stagnation to be impossible to be what? To be possible. My god. My god. Anyway, it would be unthinkable for such stagnation to take place in like 80s, 90s, or perhaps even in noughties. But 2010s, just the 10s gave us, I think, absolutely nothing. I mean, what kind of genres, what kind of new genres did we get in the 10s? We got walking sims, which are just, well, designed by reduction. You don't invent anything new. You just take something away from the formula, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but It's not something to be proud of, I mean. And we got what? Battle Royales, which I'm not sure what can be considered the first Battle Royale. I remember there being a PS3 game called MAG, which boasted like 250 players. I think nobody played it, ironically, but anyway, that's quantity, not quality. And now with great games of old, finally finally returning. What can we surmise? I mean, the most interesting games of today are basically the same games we've played 15 years ago, and there has been no progress at all. Actually, how do you say 2010s? The 10s? No, it doesn't sound right. The 20s sounds right. The 90s sounds right. 10s? Is that a word? I'm not sure I've ever heard it spoken. Alrighty. Good evening to all. Doing shit in FF12 to get 100% achievements. Oh, I've done that. By the way, doesn't this location remind you of Necro Hall of Nabudis? It's just, I think it's very similar looking, with traps too. FF12 is great. Yeah, you know what? That's the one game. Well, not really the one, but yeah, actually the one game that I think we really need to have a sequel or I don't know, even a copycat would suffice. I think it's a travesty that there has been nothing even remotely attempting to do the same things that FF12 did. Alrighty. Let me go through your comments. 80s were kind of still formation years for video games. Do they even count? Yeah, well, I mean, they count as the... How should I say? As the basis, is the foundation. I mean, we look at the 80s to see what did all these genres grow from? Well, what were their roots? I'm not saying there has been any good game in released in 80s. Maybe there has been none, or like maybe they're in single digits. I know you have taught me that I was wrong about Mario Brothers 3 and maybe Kickmaster and maybe some other game, but I mean not many. But if we look at 90s, the progress is obvious. If we look at noughties, yeah, I mean it's been absolutely great. And now we're stagnating, and there is nothing to get excited about. Did I miss an announcement of English stream? Yeah, I made it yesterday. It was late at night, so maybe you guys fell asleep by that time. Doom is cool. Yeah, Doom is cool. Okay, that's. But again, if we talk about Doom, it's still one of the best first-person shooters, and so many games like tried to emulate Doom, but none of them really succeeded. I think Quake was worse than Doom, and Quake 2 was worse than Quake, and Doom 3 doesn't exist. Duke Nukem wasn't good at all, and yeah, well, and the revival of Doom in Doom 2016, I think, was one of the best games of the past few years, and certainly one of the best reimaginings. But well, that's that's probably an exception to the rule. Let me see what else you're saying. Just started Lunar 2 Eternal Blue on Sega CD. The plot is average, but localization is crisp. Is it the same on PS1? To be honest, I have no idea. Lunar 1 Silver Star Story on Sega CD was quite different to the PS1 version. Although I'm not sure, but perhaps both of them were translated by Working Designs. I mean, yeah, it's been 20 years since I played them, and so I'm rusty on that part, but it certainly was different. I think every Lunar release was very different from the previous one, which is weird. They redid everything in terms of visuals, the scenario, the gameplay as well. I don't think they should have. I don't think they needed to, but they did. So I've played 3 absolutely different Lunars on Sega CD, on PS1, and on GBA. And PS1 version was superior, and it was mostly superior because the dialogue was great. It was really fun to read, and I do realize that the English dialogue is just, well, what's the word? In Russian we say "отсебятина", and in English I suppose it would be improvisation by Working Designs, but I suppose it's, well, localization is like, it's almost always improvisation in some sense. So we should always thank the localizers when we're getting something really fun in English. And yeah, Lunar was great and fun because the localizers decided to make it fun, not because it was inherently fun. And Eternal Blue, yeah, I mean, they kind of tried, but I'm not sure they succeeded, and the story was very meh. And yeah, I really don't like Eternal Blue. Final Fantasy XII for me was unexpectedly great, as I thought Sakaguchi, Uematsu, and some other guys leading Square Enix would affect all the FFs after FF10. Yeah, but it did, but 12 was the last Final Fantasy that Sakaguchi had personally endorsed before leaving. I mean, its development started in early 2000, I believe, after Matsuno was done with Vagrant Story, so I would say that is that makes it a classic Final Fantasy, as classic Final Fantasy as any. Fuck the traps and RNG bullshit in FF12. Yeah, yeah, I disapprove of all that. Revenant Wings, no. It didn't even try to be like FF12. Didn't even try. FF14 really has some visual FF12 elements in its presentation, doesn't it? Well, the UI, the head of UI was Minagawa, I believe, the art director and later director of FF12, so there's that. And this Raid series was designed and written by Matsuno, so I guess they have intentionally made it like 12 visually as well. So yeah, the question is, what kind of progress are you expecting? Visual, technical? Well, I do realize that we have probably reached the ceiling in terms of visuals, and there cannot possibly be any huge jump in quality as we've seen throughout any generation leading to PS3. And the jump from PS3 to PS4 wasn't obvious at start, and the jump from PS4 to PS5 isn't obvious to me right now at all. And I'm absolutely fine with that. The problem is as there are no more barriers in terms of what can be done mechanics-wise, mechanically, you know, can be done with gameplay. I would think that we should have more gameplay variety now than we did throughout all these years, but I don't really think we do. There's a theory that we exhausted most of the ideas for how different and original the games can be. It can be, but I honestly don't think so. I mean, I do realize that storytelling wise, right, there's always talk that there are like 36 different stories, and they've all been known for eternity, and every story there is just repurposing the same archetypes. The same plots, the same fabulas, so to say, but the gameplay isn't. I'm not sure if that's true for gameplay. But again, you might be right. Maybe that's it. Maybe everything has already been tried, and now we're just stuck with same old games forevermore. So what I called improvisation, you call an S-pull. Well, that's not. I mean, there is some truth to that, but I meant it in a positive way, you know. I wonder when there will be sense in video games. I don't think there will be, and I do recall Kojima wanting to implement smell, right, in I believe, Snatcher. He wanted to coat the disc in some sort of substance that would give out the smell of blood when heated, and I think it would be quite quite a bad idea. Besides, yeah, well, and also the last time I believe we the people talked about smells a lot was when Boogerman was released, and everyone said, "Oh gosh, thank God the video games don't provide us with smells. That would be horrible." But, and yeah, besides, smells wouldn't really enrich our experience in any way. Nice job, Tim. Nice job. To be honest, I'm not sure if, you know, haptic feedback, the vibration, does that much. I mean, it's certainly pleasant to play on PS5, but it's not that different, and I want something different. Do you just ever like character design, despite them being not really that great in terms of character? Oh, I mean, I think that's like the default. It's really easy to make pretty anime characters, and it's not really easy to make them deep enough for them to be praiseworthy. So yeah, there are lots of characters that look good, but who cares? Like every second anime girl looks good. So what? It's not about the looks. Okay, what else? Recently tried SNES version of first SMT. Thought it would be a game with boring scenario, but it's not that bad. First part before nuclear apocalypse is very story driven. Really, there is a whole part before the apocalypse. In SMT 3, I believe it took like what, 20 minutes before it all went to hell. And then it stopped being story driven, and so I stopped playing it. Second part is not that much. Yeah, I'm not sure I wanna check, but it certainly seems to me that the Shin Megami Tensei series, how would I put it? Well, the games are not too different from each other. They're not that varied. It's like the same story repeating over and over again. Even though the fourth game was, well, I mean, it tried a different beginning, a different intro segment. Afterwards, it just went along the same road. So I'm not really that excited about SMT. I would play the 5th if I do get the chance. But I wouldn't pay for it. That's definitely that. Oh, SMT5 has a pretty femboy as main character. Yeah, it does. But once again, And you know what, let me try this approach. Why is it that the Japanese they try to make their characters visually appealing, at least visually appealing? Why do Western developers not only follow their example, but oftentimes the Western developers just make their characters grotesquely ugly? And not only game developers, but we can talk cartoons too. You can look at anime and you can look at like 90 to 95% of Western animation is just animated puke. It's impossible to look at without disgust. And I have no idea what I mean. Why not make them pretty? And while, okay, there can be an easy explanation nowadays. Yeah, I mean, today we have all that intersectional bullshit, and it says that, well, everything is pretty. You may think that's pretty, but it is. So if you don't accept there are different beauty standards, you are a bigot and fuck you. Well, okay, sure, I get it. But the Western mass media products have been ugly as hell for a long while. So that's not new at all. It's like tradition. I mean, you look at kids' cartoons, at Western kids' cartoons, and gosh. So that has been happening for a long while. I mean, in the 80s, in the 90s, as a kid in the 90s, I've watched a lot of Western cartoons, and gosh, I mean, well, the Disney cartoons were good, but they were mostly furries, and yeah. Realistic features do not belong in DMC series. I don't really mind DMC5. I'm quite fine with DMC5, but again, realism. Well, how should I put it? Even realism, as we can see in newest Capcom games, is not as ugly as what we can see in more stylized, cartoonish games and, well, cartoons. Case in point, I love Psychonauts. It's a great game. It's one of my favorites. It's one of maybe the best. But I can't help but think that it's just not possible to make characters this ugly if it's not done intentionally. And I see absolutely no reason why it has to be done intentionally. What's the stylistic choice in making your characters ugly? I have no answer. I have no answer. And yeah, I mean, even if we're not speaking about those, I mean, you can try to look at artworks of like Western games in the 90s again. Like, how did they draw women? They looked like this. They looked like Amazon in Diablo 2 Remaster. They were super muscular. They had butt ugly faces. It was horrible, really. Well, anyway, enough of that, right? Speaking of visual progress, did you watch Black Myth Wukong trailer? No, no. I don't know. Wukong doesn't sound like something I would be interested in. And remember when OG He-Man and She-Ra both looked good and pretty? Well, I can't really remember how She-Ra looked, but I thought she was fucking buff. And that's kind of what I'm complaining about. I mean, they were... Nah, whatever. Yeah, so what's everyone's game of the year so far? I mean, we are 8 months in, so 2/3 of the year is past. What's everyone's favorite game of 2021? I'm not sure I have one, to be honest. And as I've thought about the past year, I would say that patch 5.3 for FF14 was actually the best release of 2020. DC animation begs to differ. Let me click on that for a moment. Catwoman strip dance. Okay. Yeah, well, she's alright, I suppose. She's okay. I'm not saying like all of Western cartoons are ugly, I'm just saying that most of them are. Black Myth Wukong is a Chinese AAA game based on Journey to the West. Looks like it's a blend of Souls-like and DMC style hack and slash. Well, yeah. Well, no, sorry. Chinese game based on Chinese literature, and it's a Souls-like. Now, those are the three things I don't really wanna see again. What games were released this year? You tell me. The Great Ace Attorney. No, it's good, but again, if it's a GOTY, then I would say this year is wasted, as was the previous one. So am I correct in inferring that the answer is pretty much there are no worthy games? That have been released throughout the entire 2021. Because I remember on my Twitter feed, some people were just ejaculating over It Takes Two, which is a good game, but come on, it's not GOTY material. And Resident Evil 8 is a mediocre game, which is not worth the praise it receives. Aha, Humankind. Well, that's an interesting answer. I would like to try it out. Although personally, I would love to see a narrative experience instead of just mechanics. But then again, when was the last time? Oh, right, in Shadowbringers. Shadowbringers was the rare case of a narrative experience that really impressed me. And before that, it was Edith Finch, and before that it was Yakuza 0. Yeah. It's like creativity is mostly dead since 2000s. Yeah. Again, I would like to tell you what's on my mind, but I can't. But my next article will kind of touch upon that. Don't remember any games. Well, yeah, okay. I'm not sure if I even played anything released this year. Yeah. That's kind of what I was talking about. And yeah, if you're actually watching, as if there is anything to watch, I am grinding for my 4th relic weapon, and it's for Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker and Dancer don't have access to earlier relic weapons, so their weapons aren't shiny, mostly. So I decided to grind a bit and get shiny things. Everyone likes shiny things. Is it done? It's not done. I think there's one last quest. Let me just focus on my screen for a tiny bit. Well, this looks okay. Do I really want to upgrade it further? I'm pretty happy with how it looks. Maybe I should just switch to Dancer and grind for Dancer's relics. Well, gee. Okay, alright. Samurai Warriors 5. I cannot distinguish one Musou game from another, and I never got the point of it. So yeah, I don't get them. So yeah, actually, speaking of new approaches to games, well, for single-player RPGs, as I've said, I do believe that there is a lot to explore following in Final Fantasy XII's footsteps. And regarding co-op games, I would remind everyone once again that I consider Army of Two, the first 2 games, to be the pinnacle of co-op experiences. Once again, It has been what, 10 years since their last release, and no one tried to follow in their footsteps. And the co-op game genre has become so stale that people actually say that It Takes Two is their game of the year this year, when It Takes Two doesn't do, well, I don't think it does anything new at all. Can you switch jobs during FF14's gameplay, or it's a no-no? Not during battles, but right now, sure. Here's a gunbreaker, and here I am a black mage. I'm going through the list of games released in 2021 and I can't find anything worth my attention. Yeah, I get it. Well, again, for me, there are a few sequels that are praiseworthy, at least in some ways. So I do like the fact that the great games of Eld get follow-ups, but I'm really sad that there is no progress. Yeah, again, no progress. Maybe co-op games simply don't sell very well. Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Maybe they don't. I have no idea. Again, if we were talking about the best-selling games, yeah, sure, we know. Call of Duty, like Fortnite, all those battle royales, all that. I mean, FIFA does sell every year, but I don't know. I mean, if we look at it from a commercial perspective, I mean, every big company wants to have a slice of that pie. Whatever is popular at the moment, whatever sells well, they want in. It's hard to blame them, but, well, as I've always said, why not release something cheap just to diversify your portfolio and to throw a bone to your fan base. And, well, look at that. Square Enix actually released the sequel to The World Ends With You. It's not too great, but certainly not bad. It's nice that we get this sequel, and it is obviously very cheap. It didn't sell well at all, but yeah, sure. I mean, it's good that they've done it. So I would love to see more of that. So again, I mean, Psychonauts didn't sell at all, but people demanded a sequel, people demanded more, and in 3 days we're getting a sequel, and that's great. So if there is any positive trend right now, I would say that's a positive trend. But if there's still, but the best we can get after all these 15 years is pretty much the same as back then, and that kind of worries me. So new games, like new AAA games of the past few years, I'm not sure if they are even worth our attention. And the indies, I'm not sure if they even have any capability to surprise anymore. Again, maybe I'm not looking hard enough. I'm not saying I play a shit ton of indie games. I don't. But I would think I would hear of any revolutionary, great, amazing indie game. Nah, I don't. And I would say the most interesting segment is the middle class, so to say, right? The A or double A games. And there aren't that many, unfortunately. I tend to believe that Army of Two was perceived as yet another military shooter not really caring about the co-op. Yeah, I mean, I guess. And Final Fantasy XII was perceived as yet another JRPG, and nobody cared about its approach to storytelling and the way its gambit system, just how great it was. And that's sad. There was a great foundation, and there was a lot of room to grow. I mean, for God's sake, it was on PS2. If they just did a huge open world JRPG with the same battle system, holy moly. And for shooters, well, again, you know what? There is something in common, with between FF12 and Army of Two and Xenoblade, which I also enjoy and find to be great, and that is the aggro system. I do believe that both in shooters, co-op shooters and RPGs, which have parties, right? Aggro management should be an important part of gameplay, of strategy, because in regular JRPGs you have no idea who the enemy will target, and if you get unlucky, the enemy can just focus on a single character and maul them to death. In shooters, well, it's the same thing. You have no control over enemy's attention. And both FF12 and FF14, naturally, and Xenoblade and Army of Two, they both gave the player the option, the ability to control the enemy's attention, and that was important, and I think that is great. And I don't know why shooters don't really follow in Army of Two's footsteps, because the aggro meter was a great idea, and we just don't see it anymore. Alrighty. What are you telling? Yeah. Don't see any upcoming games worth to wait for. Yep, I'm not sure what to look forward to, but well, okay, Final Fantasy 16, I'm really excited about it, but it has no release date. Think there were talks that co-op games don't sell because you need to sell them to several people simultaneously, and it's significantly harder than selling games to each player separately. Yeah, I suppose. Faras's last games provided 2 copies at the price of 1, and well, that's, how should I say? His games are cheap, so it probably wouldn't work for AAA release like Army of Two. So yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons. Steam has a share play functionality that allows you to play co-op games with only 1 copy. Oh yeah, that's true, but you cannot rely on it. Do you recommend buying DS or 3DS for The World Ends With You? Absolutely. That's the only correct way of playing it. It is worth it. It is one of the best games ever. And yeah, I don't think playing it on mobiles or on Switch would do the trick. And I don't think emulation would work either. So if you can, it is best to play it on DS or 3DS. Yeah, yeah, there we go. I'll just grind a bit more. Let me just do the Dancer Relic, because why not? My weapons are not shiny. Gotta fix that. Yeah, so isn't it ironic? I mean, most of my streams are about video games, and we can't even name any video game that's worthy of praise that's been released this year, and we don't have that many games to look forward to. It's kind of sad, isn't it? I would think that with so many game developers out there, there would be something exciting, but nope. Anyway, I mean, if we have nothing to talk about games-wise, we can talk, I don't know, life or politics if you want, whichever you pick. I mean, yeah, games and politics are pretty much the only things I'm into now. I usually play something relaxing like Train Valley or FF14 with podcasts in the background. So I'm listening to a lot of stuff, but yeah, it's mostly political. Let's see. Oh, this is funny. I mean, instead of London is the capital of Great Britain, people just come in and say London is no longer English city. Yeah, suppose that's true. Haven't been there for a long while. But I don't expect it to be English, considering all I've heard about it. Emulation of the World Ends With You for DS on mobile is great, especially when you have a stylus. Yeah, well, okay, let me rephrase. If you can emulate the stylus, yeah, maybe you should do that. But I don't think a mouse would suffice on PC. I don't think it's suitable alternative. And playing with your finger, I've done it, you know. I've beaten the Switch version, and I hated it. I do not recommend using your fingers. If you can use a stylus on your mobile phones, maybe that would be acceptable. If you remember a rumor about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 being in development, it's also stated that it would be a sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Well, that's sad, isn't it? London is no longer English city? Why so? Well, because the English people are no longer a majority in London. I think who said that? I think it was John Cleese actually who said that, and he was, well, I'm not sure if I can say he was cancelled, but they certainly made an attempt to cancel him. But that, I suppose, is a fact. Implying Paris is a French city now, or Berlin a German one. Yeah, but we don't speak French or German, so we can only... So London is pretty much the only... Again, I don't know if Paris or Berlin were all that great, but personally I did enjoy London. I'm not sure I would right now, but I did. Yeah, so speaking about traveling and tourism, I still kinda intend to, well, I would like to go somewhere this fall, and I'm not sure which place would be best. I'm not sure which... Is there any place in Russia that's worth it and that can be reached on train and plane, and where would be a lot of interesting things nearby to see and do and visit other cities nearby, again without using buses? Is there any place to go that's safe and worth it? Is Middle Asia worth it? I don't know. I'm still unsure. I mean, I would still like to take a week off and just go somewhere and sightsee, but everything's locked down. Our vaccine isn't really recognized anywhere, so can't go into other countries, most of them. Siberia, the problem is, well, first of all, I don't think Siberian cities are that interesting. They're not really, historic. I would expect them to be default Soviet architecture and default Russian wilderness. And another problem with Siberia is the distance between the cities. I would expect it to be huge, and I would expect there to be a lot of trouble going around. So yeah. I've been to Nizhny Novgorod and Kazan, in fact, in one trip a couple years ago. It was fun. And, well, again, I chose those cities because I did believe there was something to see, and there was. But yeah, it's done. It's done. Karelia, I've just been there. I mean, less than a month ago. You liked Crimea? Well, I'm not too keen on going into occupied territories, and the only way to travel around Crimea is by bus. They have no trains out there, and I really don't like buses. I recommend Georgia. Well, yeah, but I do believe the tickets are really expensive there. Speaking of vaccine, will it always be? Can't we go to other countries? Oh, I have no idea. And well, our Georgian expert says that's not a good time for Georgia now. So there we go. The WHO said something like they hope to register Sputnik in autumn somewhere. Oh, I'm not sure it was it WHO? I did read in the news that Thailand has approved of Sputnik vaccine, and so they will be letting Russian tourists in. The problem is, I'm afraid Thailand is just beaches and not much sightseeing. And my problem is I can't stay in a single place for longer than like 1 or 2 days. I can't rest. I am unable to rest. You know, when I told you I'm playing some game and at the same time I'm listening to some politics podcasts, that's me resting. So, unless I'm doing like 2 or 3 things at the same time, I get really bored. So, so I would really have to go somewhere where I could, well, be constantly on the move in trains and get to see some interesting things. And currently I'm thinking about Middle Asia, but I have always had doubts, but maybe, I don't know. Come to Tbilisi, I'll treat you with saperavi and kinzmarauli. Saperavi is a wine, right? I would think. I would think that's not for me. When was the last time you used Google Translate? Oh, I occasionally do. I keep forgetting the words all the time. And what's the best way to remind yourself of the word you're looking for, or some synonyms, actually, than to just type the word you need into Google Translate. Yeah, I use it a lot. And I absolutely don't remember the words I'm looking for because I mean, they are trivial. When I was in Yekaterinburg and Nizhny Tagil in 2015, there was Russian Arms Expo, which is now moved to Moscow. I would probably recommend you go to Yekaterinburg. People say it's a nice city. Well, okay. But have anyone been to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan? I wonder, because I'm thinking it shouldn't be too expensive to fly there, to stay there, to move around there, and people there are probably fluent, if not in English, then in Russian, and I just wonder if it's a good idea to try to go to those three countries and just move around there. Maybe Hungary, they're letting in Sputnik carriers. Wow, well, that's interesting. I would love to go to Czechia, actually, but the problem with Europe is there's not much point in just going to one single country because they are so small, and I would really love to move around, and to be honest, I'm not even sure what to look for in Hungary. But if they are letting in Sputnik vaccinated people, that's great. Are you sure that's good time to visit that region considering Afghanistan? Yeah, well, I didn't say Tajikistan, did I? But I don't know. I don't know. Will it ever be a good time? I don't know. But those are the closest foreign countries that you can visit without paying a shit ton for a visa and without facing a shit ton of restrictions like in Europe. So that's I'm thinking about that. Yeah. But I can see that no one can comment or recommend those countries and those regions. So yeah, I guess I'll keep being unsure whether to go. Wow, 30 people. That's nice. I thought there would be less. A perfect mount for a perfect costume. Oh, right, fewer, not less. I said less? I think I said, yeah. Yeah. Ah, I'm really sad about making so many mistakes in English. But then again, to make less mistakes, you gotta practice, and I don't really get to practice. So, what else should I talk about? We can talk about politics, I guess. I mean, I do talk about politics a lot. I try to minimize the amount of politics I throw out into my Twitter feed, since, well, I mean, people who follow me are mostly into gaming, so I think, well, maybe I shouldn't, but I still do sometimes, but way less than I would have liked. And since I've started my weekly news streams on Saturdays, that it kind of makes it easier to deal with the itch to just to talk politics all the time. So I'm just saving it all up, and then then I just tell you everything that I've found interesting during the week on Saturdays. And yeah, and I don't really talk much about Russia, since all politics news about Russia is just horrendous, but it's also kind of expected. I don't know. Again, maybe I don't think it's just my bias. I think people in the US didn't really expect to see the US degenerate so fast and so in such a horrible manner. While in Russia, we did get horrible news like all the time in the 90s. Like, my childhood just consisted of mentions of murders, assassinations, like acts of terrorism, and it was just daily. It was just there was nothing else. Oh, the businessman was found murdered in his home. Yeah, I guess that's big. Why? That's because he was a businessman. Well, that's the reason. Phew. And yeah, and then I mean, there was always war and hostages and explosions and all that. I guess I personally dodged a couple just by a couple of hours. I do recall being on Pushkinskaya like 2 hours before a bomb went there, and the day I was going to go through Avtozavodskaya. Well, yeah, I read the news. I read the news a couple of hours before going there, and yeah, well, the train exploded. There's still a memorial there with flowers. But I don't know. I think growing up in Russia in the 90s, it kind of makes you fatalistic. And so when you hear about all the horrible stuff going on, I don't know, about tortures, about Magnitsky, when you hear about all these political parties being suppressed, their activists jailed, and you have no one, you having no one to vote for, uh, well, it's, I guess, not a big surprise. So perhaps that's why I'm not really talking about Russia that much, although there is, of course, a lot to talk about. But then again, I kind of assume people know, people who listen to me, who watch my streams, they kind of, yeah, they kind of know. While it's, yeah, I think it's surprising to see the Western civilization degrade so fast and in such a horrendous manner. So that's what I'm talking mostly about. Let me see what you are thinking, and I'll continue then. You're aware how English knowledge is important, right? Why most Russians can't properly speak it then? I wouldn't presume to know the answer, but they just don't want it. I mean, it is known that people in Scandinavian countries are well versed in English. It's like, it's I think it's kind of hard to find a Swedish person who wouldn't know at least how to read, how to understand English. While, well, with Russians it's not guaranteed at all. But yeah, I couldn't say. Honestly, if you ever decide to come back to Tbilisi, I can offer you a better program than what we did the last time. I would actually love to go back to Tbilisi. When you said it's not a good time, when do you estimate would be a good time? Okay, do you prefer to watch English films with subtitles or only audio? I love subtitles because, well, some movies have people whispering very quietly and then going overboard with volume of sound effects, and it's horrible, and it's not always that you can clearly hear what they're saying, and subtitles just allow you to perfectly discern the message that the character is conveying. So yeah, I prefer subtitles all the time. I don't really know how to discuss politics, right? You literally choose between something stupid and scary, choosing Russia, or stupid and ridiculous, choosing the USA. Yeah, I'll go back to this point in a moment. I really want to go to Berlin by train, but I'm not sure that this will be an option even after pandemic. Well, it was, but yeah, I'm not sure if it will be. Personally, I haven't, but it's mostly because the plane tickets to Berlin were always very, very incredibly cheap. I mean, it was, I don't know, like $100. You could go to Berlin for $100. So there's just no reason to, and the flight, it took like what, like 2 to 3 hours. It's just, and you're there. It's great. But yeah, I never went by train further west than Minsk or Odessa, whichever is western. I'm not sure. Western, more to the west. Gosh. Anyway, trying to switch between the stream and Jeopardy is not the best idea. Jeopardy? It's like, you are creating questions for us to play, right? That's cool. The railroad to Berlin goes through one very unstable. That one. Yeah, that's I do understand. But I would say I wouldn't probably be too afraid. I mean, that unstable country is too busy terrorizing its own citizens. It has no interest in Russian citizens. So yeah. What's my favorite mount and minion in FF14? Oh, I have several, but my favorite minions are Cloud of Darkness, and right now I'm going with a small golden Namazu. As for the mounts, well, my favorite mount is probably this one. It shows you how rich I am. It costs 50 million. Yeah, and oh, my mount. Here we go. Here we go. So here's my minion, and now he's carrying me, throwing away money. Dosh. There we go. So the good time to go to Georgia is whenever Georgia is no longer #1 in COVID spread per capita. Oh! Well, again, after getting vaccinated, I am not that afraid, I suppose, but I do realize that if you have that kind of situation, that a lot of things will be closed or inaccessible and all that. So yeah. Okay, let's wait it out. Maybe in a year. I would certainly love to go farther into the mountains, and I would even stomach traveling on cars and buses if I go into the mountains. The mountains are awesome. Okay, I decay. At least some Russians do speak English at least a little bit. I mean, even now we're more or less discussing things. Yeah, we are. No question about it. It's weird that not enough Russians are speaking English yet, even though it's clearly the lingua franca, so there is no reason not to study it. But I've had a lot of conversations about that, regarding localizations of some games. So yeah, we've been over that. I see. Yeah, so circling back to that point about stupid and scary choosing Russia and stupid and ridiculous choosing the USA. I've been not only me, but yeah, it's an interesting point to think about. Since Western civilization has pretty much collapsed, since it has no longer any moral authority, since it's become absolutely clownish, and the West has historically been a source of, how would you say, inspiration for liberal Russians, and some stupid fucking idiots still keep worshipping the West, even when we see what it has become. But for a lot of people, it's quite obvious that the West can no longer be our moral compass. And it's also quite obvious that Russia's past cannot be its moral compass either. Our past is, well, I would say we, and actually it's ironic. I would think that Russia, both Russia and the Western world, peaked around 2007 to 2010, and then it all went downhill. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else good in our history. Yeah, the naughties are fine, but then again, they are fine because we had no ideology back then, and things were just stabilizing mostly, and without any kind of forceful authoritarian government intervention, the economy just started stabilizing and going up. People started being more tolerant, more chill, more progressive, and so to say. I know the word is fucked right now. Yeah, it was a good time, but you cannot use it as moral compass because it had no moral compass. We just arrived there naturally. And to point to something and say, yeah, that's what we should strive for, I think would require something else. So, in the US, the conservatives keep pushing the idea that, look, here are founding fathers, they created something great, our country's foundations were great, even though the principles used to not apply to some groups of individuals, the principles themselves were great. So we want to conserve these values, and that's where you will find salvation from all these contemporary intersectional bullshit. And they have a point. But my point is, the Americans can do that. They have those foundational principles. We don't. And we can't use the America as an example, as we used to before, right? We cannot point at it and say, look, they used those principles, and look, they turned out great. Well, because the Western world doesn't seem to want to be great anymore. It's undermining itself at every opportunity. Like, you cannot say, like, do as America did and things are gonna be awesome, because the America is just no longer awesome. So and so there are I don't think there are any opportunities for us to just use as positive examples, as aspirations. There are no examples of success anymore, and so yeah, so that's the question, right? Russia cannot look to Western world to aspire to what they've become. No one wants to become what they've become. Russia cannot look to its past and say, "Whoo, let's go all, let's be conservatives. It'll be great." What the fuck is being a conservative in Russia means? Conserve what? The Tsarist times, with pogroms, with oh my god, with absolute morons in charge of the country? Of course not. He didn't even have any decent ideology. I mean, the only ideology they did invent in the end in the 19th century was orthodoxy, monarchy, and nationalism, right? I'm approximating the words, you know the words. And they only did that because all the empires did that. They went all in on nationalism to inspire people to go to their endless wars. Fuck the empires. That's not something we should conserve. And well, I won't even begin speaking about Soviet Union and its ideology because yeah, fuck that. So yeah, so my point is that our current ideology is well, it's laughable, right? It's the cult of World War II's victory in World War II, mixed with some semblance of religious fervor, well, again, with the church being co-opted by the state, and with some quote-unquote traditional values as supported by the state, and we all know that, yeah, that's all bollocks. We have no ideology. It's just kleptocracy ruining everything. So yeah, so as I've said, I listen to a lot of podcasts. So I went and asked that question that I just explained right now to Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager is this old nice Jew who is very conservative and who speaks a lot, who has a PragerU YouTube channel. They do great propaganda videos there. One of the best propaganda videos, I would say. They are short, concise, well illustrated, and they do get their point across, and their point is quite fine. So I listened to him a lot, and I thought, well, what the hell? I'll just throw him my question, and what do you know? He read the question. I've actually began it in Russian because I know he knows Russian. Just to see how well he does. And while the accent of English speakers is always obvious to any Russian because they don't handle soft vowels too well, and that was the case with him. But yeah, he did good. So yeah, my question was where to look where do we find a moral compass or inspiration for this country, since the West is no longer a good example? So his answer was that he still believes that the original founding principles of the US are good. So there is no reason to just throw them away, since the current situation has degraded this much. It doesn't mean that the principles themselves are not worth it. So and he lists them as first of all, liberty. It's self-explanatory, really. The second is in God we trust. He is a religious conservative, of course, and I can't really accept that answer, since you have to trust, right? It's not something you can just belief is not something you can force yourself to have. You either have it or you don't, and I don't. So and the third is I pluribus unum, which is from many one, which is this statement that whichever cultures or religions people are coming from, once they become American, they're American, which is how would you say it, civil, probably civic nationalism, right? It's not. So yeah, it doesn't matter which nationality you are if you consider yourself to be a Russian, and if you like consider Russia to be your country, and you like want to participate in its culture and help it grow and help the country grow. It's like it doesn't matter which nationality you were born as, you're Russian and that's it. So pretty much as the US does it, right? Ironically, that's quite applicable in our situation. That's what I mean, that the US, the Americans, there's no such nationality as American, but they just made it happen. So it probably could be used in us, but right, but how can you possibly import those values here, since they have no roots here? Well, yeah, that he didn't have any answer to. He basically said, well, Sergey, maybe you could found a movement to do just that, because, well, he said, well, if Western values are going to be saved, they're gonna be saved by Eastern Europe. Yeah, that's that sounds pessimistic, doesn't it? I would think that perhaps Poland or Hungary would do better than us in saving those Western conservative values or some such. But yeah, it was fun to get a long and thoughtful answer to the question, but the answer itself is, of course, well, I don't find it terribly reassuring, so to say. Let's see what you're talking about. Village house and hiking in Georgia sounds amazing. I would love to do some hiking, yeah. So you said these streams are for practicing English, but who of us can be sure 100% that his English is good? You can't, and I know my English isn't good. I know I'm making a lot of mistakes, but if I don't even try to speak English, I know that it will only get worse. So there isn't really much of an option here. Besides, I can still understand what you're saying, even though you may make mistakes. So whatever. Everything changes extremely quickly right now, and I do believe that there is no need for a one particular approach, ideology, moral compass. There should be a set of methods which should adapt all the time, combining all possible practices from right, left, center ideas, excluding violence. A balance should be everything. Socialism will go down eventually, same as libertarian cause or nationalism, name any, in case you believe that one idea can fix everything. I am a bit confused about go down, but But you see, as a libertarian, I can object to something you've said. See, you said, like, excluding violence, but you do realize that pretty much everything the state does is violence. Every action of the state is basically coercion on the threat of violence. Even the taxation. Actually, you know what? I just learned it today. I was never interested in history of taxation, so just today I've learned when income tax was implemented. Income tax is just... it is so default right now. Like, you feel... You might think it was always the norm, it was always the case, but no, it absolutely wasn't. You know when income tax was implemented, by the way, both in Russia and in the US, it was implemented only 100 years ago during World War I. Before that, regular citizens weren't required to pay taxes based on their earnings. Okay, in the US there was a previous implementation of income tax. It was implemented during the Civil War, but only the really rich people, like 10% the richest people, had to pay that to fund the war. And then came World War I, and yeah, everyone now have to pay, but like they said, it's temporary. Literally, you even in Russian Wikipedia, I'm just checking, and 1916, right? The Russian Empire says, well, we are introducing a temporary tax, right? Temporary. And yeah, any temporary government program becomes the norm, and it never goes away, and it grows and grows and grows. But again, like in the US, they had a lot of provisions in the Constitution. I'm not sure. Yeah, we Russians were never defended by our constitutions, but they were. So, oh, nice mount. So that is kind of unconstitutional, isn't it? I mean, the fact that not only you are getting robbed of your hard-earned income, of your money, of products of your labor, of your time, essentially. If you underreport your earnings, well, you're fucked. You're gonna go to jail. And what is jail? Jail is essentially slavery. You are enslaved on the perjury of it's like, and if you're trying to escape from that slavery, well, they're just gonna kill you. That's literally violence. Just I mean, think about it for a while. So if you're saying that, yeah, we should do all the practices excluding violence, well, everything the government does is violence. Because it's not voluntary. They are literally robbing me of my money, and you, and every one of you. And then they use that money for what? Well, I don't know, funding militias in Central African Republic, funding Assad, or whatever. Well, they certainly don't use it for anything we would like or approve of. They don't show us receipts, right? It's not like, we take this money from you and this is what we give you. They never do. let me just okay. It may be a stupid question, but what's the point of libertarian policy? Is it some sort of form of anarchism? Okay, oh, that's a perfect segue from what I was just talking about. I mean, libertarian policy is a policy. It's an ideology that values personal freedom above all, and that means both, and that also means fiscal freedom, of course. So libertarians are against violence, against coercion. They are for voluntary, for anything you would do voluntarily. Like, you make the choices, you live with consequences. That's the basis of libertarian ideology. So, and non-aggression principle, of course, right? Non-aggression principle means, well, yeah, that each individual is obliged, he has all freedom, but he is obliged not to infringe on others' freedom. I'm not explaining it well. There are people who do it better. Sorry, it is really tough to do this in English. So yeah, but, and again, for anarchism, again, just think about it this way about anarchism. What kind of relationships can there be between people? Then can be a hierarchical relationships, which means one is above the other, one can dictate to the other what to do. For example, like, I have a job, so I have a boss, and I voluntarily enter into hierarchical relationship with my employer. My employer gets the fruits of my labor, he pays me money. Great. I mean, I literally signed the contract that says that that's what happens. So we have a hierarchical relationships. He can control my actions regarding to my work. That's fine, right? But what about me and you? Well, we are in an anarchic, our relations can be only described as anarchy. None of us has any power over the other. Well, okay, I mean, I can probably, delete your messages or ban you in chat, but yeah, you get the point. That's the extent of it, right? So that's it, right? Anarchy is when other people have no power over you. And I'm not, again, it's not that I advocate for pure anarchy, not at all. I mean, I am literally in a hierarchical relationship with my employer, right? I'm fine with that. So just as I would be in a hierarchical relationship with, well, for example, an owner of establishment. I am, that's a bad word, an owner of some sort of, I don't know, a restaurant I'm going into, right? By visiting his place, I am accepting the rules he set for his place. He has the power to evict me, to just show me the door. That's his prerogative. Yes, it's his property. That's fine, right? For example, if there are some cops, okay, let's for a moment pause it and just think about them as people who just oh my gosh, it's hard. For example, there should be people who ensure that everything is orderly and that the law is abided by all, right? If I start breaking windows or some such, or just, I don't know, attacking pedestrians, naturally the officer of the law should have power over me to restrain me and to stop me from committing acts of, again, violence, right? But that's the point. Those are naturally hierarchical relationships, naturally occurring, that I consent to. Why do I consent to an officer of the law having power over regular citizens? Well, because if some bully decides to punch me in the face, I want the officer of the law to restrain him, right? I willingly accept this, the existence of the officer that is there to protect me, right? But then we have to ask a question. Well, what are others? What other people should we give power over us? And if you ask a question like that, you could probably just arrive to an answer that, well, probably not many. You don't really want every bureaucrat to have a power over you. Why the hell would they? Why the hell should they? Right? And if you follow my line of thought, that then you would probably arrive to a libertarian answer that we should strive to make people more free from those hierarchical relationships, that from any relationship that they didn't consent to, from any obligation that they didn't consent to, that everything should be consensual. That's the core of it. Whew. I hope it was coherent. I hope it was. Let me catch up with you. Play a new version of Quake 1. I am not familiar with Quake, and so I'll be thinking about the game too much. Okay. Yeah, well, I do believe that's about it. Surely I'm not happy regarding taxation at all. It's obvious that the role of government should be reduced and the level of the exact violence which is produced by it. Yes, I didn't put it correctly. It would not be possible to exclude violence at all because it always comes up with the issue of security. Yeah, but it's not... it's, as I've just explained, it's not violence if you consent to it. I consent to having a security detail to protect me on the street, for example, right? Again, we can argue whether that should be whether state should keep the peace, whether the state should even be doing that, right? But we are not arguing that it should be done. We know it should be done. We are perfectly fine with that. The problem is that the government does everything. Well, it doesn't do well. It doesn't do well pretty much anything. It doesn't do well peacekeeping. We have a ton of examples where the cops, which are supposed to be keeping law and order, well, they just torture people, they beat up people, they don't really, they defend not the people but the ruling class and all. And the government has no accountability, which is once again a problem, because every private enterprise has accountability. It can be sued, it can be forced to clean up its mess. The government, well, it almost never does. And that's why I believe that even for issues that we feel should be dealt with, should be protected, and some such, even with those issues, the government is not the answer, it's a part of the problem. And that is the libertarian view. Whew. Again, some people, well, partially from the podcasts I listen to and generally that I follow, a lot of people in the Western, how should I put it, intellectual circles, well, they don't consider them to be, as they say, big L libertarians, as in like true libertarians who would, I don't know, join the Libertarian Party if it wasn't such a joke. But libertarians in the sense that, yeah, they are for personal freedoms, which is most important. And a lot of people are like that. If you believe that people should decide what's good for them, and it shouldn't be dictated from above, from some bureaucrats and such, yeah, well, that's a libertarian point. Congratulations, you're halfway there. And the opposite of being a libertarian is being authoritarian, which means that you believe that the people are dumb and they should just be told what to do, otherwise, oh, those stupid people, they are just they can't be trusted with their lives. Let us tell them what to do. Let us protect them from everything. It's quite a horrible approach, and of course, every authoritarian action is quote-unquote justified as, well, we're taking care of the people, right? And we see it a lot currently. We see it a lot with the COVID bullshit, of course. And we also often see it with regards to children, right? The usual argument of, think of the children, let's ban violent video games. Yeah, and all that. And, well, that's always just an excuse to grab more power, to force more mandates onto regular people, and it's bad. It's real bad. My point is, right? As I said, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and most of them are either disaffected liberals, well,
I myself, I'm a liberal who I cannot in good conscience call myself a liberal anymore, since that word has been co-opted and just, how would I put it? Well, it clearly no longer means what I want it to mean. What it used to mean, even, right? Some people are still clinging to the label classical liberal, which is very, very close to being libertarian, right? And the point is, again, sorry, I'm rambling. The conservatives, the Republicans, used to be this oh so moral and oh so authoritarian jerks who always wished to like ban something, ban this, ban that, ban weed. Our Christian beliefs are incompatible with this thing. Let's ban it, right? That has always, historically, I mean, I am not sure, but I got the feeling that historically that was the case. While Democrats were, well, we're liberals, let people do whatever they want, etc. Now, I did talk a lot about the decline of the U.S. And for example, in racial relations, in the onset of intersectionality and all that. But the interesting point is, well, yeah, we can probably deduce where that came from, but people always start to say that that like two parties were switched. I mean, the Republicans initially were anti-slavery, and they fought the southern states, and then Republicans for some reason became very popular in the southern states, so now everyone calls them racists. But what I'm more interested in is the issue of freedom, because I always felt that the Republicans would love to dictate what is acceptable and what is not. And currently, well, I'm listening to a lot of conservatives and a lot of Republicans, and they are very much libertarian-minded, as in, well, I'm a religious person, but you go you. Live however you like. I'm not telling you what to do. I think this is bad, but I'm not gonna stop you from engaging in the behavior that I might find sinful, immoral, or whatever. It's your business. And I have absolutely no problem with this kind of people. I'm just curious, how did this switch happen? And you know, the Democrats and the so-called liberals, right? People who used to be liberal now became authoritarian because they believe that their so-called liberal views have to be enforced, have to be mandated, that people cannot be trusted to just be okay, that everyone has to behave the way they find acceptable or else. And that's the switch I find really weird, and I'm not sure when it happened, why it happened, how did it happen, but I would never imagine that I would be more interested and more comfortable listening to the people who are religious, because I'm very much anti-religious. I'm very much not a conservative. I don't hold pretty much any conservative views, but I suppose, yeah, that's why I would probably call myself a libertarian, right? And since they are libertarian, we are much more aligned than with those people of my generation, of my stance of religion, on sex, on anything. Despite agreeing on most counts, I think that disagreement on the count of personal freedom is the most important one. So yeah, so that's why I am now finding myself on the sides of conservatives with whom I do not agree. But yeah, I wonder when conservatives began to started being so close to libertarians. That I find weird. Let me see what you're saying. The problem is not sure that without government, people would be able to organize all necessary issues for the lifestyle, including security, trade, justice, logistics, and so forth. I'm pretty much sure that logistics and trade feel perfectly fine without a government. I'm pretty sure it. You will find a lot of examples where government intervention has only made things worse, and I don't think it made anything better, really. Now, for security and lifestyle and all that, well, I would say that we can. Nobody says that the government has to go overnight. That's the point. We can just remove some powers from the government that we feel it does not need to have, and then pause, reflect, think about it, and well, pick some others. And so step by step, as we make the government smaller, we make it less violent towards us, and it's great. Let's do that. Nobody needs to just fix all issues at the same time. I mean, nobody could fix all issues at the same time. So we can just fix them one step at a time. And I think like removing the government from all the economic issues, from trade and all that, would be a great start. And yeah, of course, okay, let the judiciary and the peacekeeping and all that, let that come last. I don't care much for it. As long as the government shrinks, that's a positive direction. That's good. Let's do it. Today we need some instrument of regulation for large multinational companies' activity when it messes up with ordinary people, small business, and even nation state. I am conflicted about this because, well, the problem is these huge corporations are already in bed with the government. Well, the US government mostly, but it's not like they're independent. It's like they are already intertwined. So we can't expect the US government to regulate those large corporations in a manner that would be beneficial for the people. Now, and if we say that we need local governments, to put pressure on those international corporations to better reflect the will of the local people. Well, here's the problem. We do have that here in Russia, and it's just well, I shouldn't really spell it out, but Roskomnadzor is exactly what you're proposing. It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Our government is trying to regulate it, and we are all suffering because of it. All right, let's see what else. I can't believe in a simple solution to everything which is provided by the ideologies. Kill the rich, abolish the government, believe in God, put away the migrants, etc. Well, I think reduce the power of the government sounds simple enough, and I can't say it's working, right? Because it's not happening, but it's a good vector to follow. And of course, reducing the power of the government will not help the jealous people, because it's the cry of jealousy that says eat the rich, right? In a moment. I mean, if people object to their being rich people, well, tough luck. You really can't do much about it. If people object to their being poor people, again, socialism was tried, it didn't work. There was still rich and there were still poor. So that problem cannot be solved. The point is, if we reduce taxation, if we reduce government regulation, if we free up the economy, the rich will become richer and the poor will also become richer. And I'm pretty sure that the notice in Russia is a perfect example that trickle-down economy works. Our government didn't do shit for us. Russia has risen up on its own, and it has produced, well, everything we're now wasting with the crisis and all that stuff that happened in the 10s, but here we go. In 2000s, in the noughties, the government didn't intervene too much in our business and in our cultural life, and Russia has reached its pinnacle, right? Like 2007 to 2010, best times, was probably the best time to live in Russia. So yeah, I think we can strive towards that, and we can. I'm not sure if that's the simple solution, but I think it's simple enough, and I think it's working, provably so. 7 people watching. I see 17, but yeah, I think it was 30, and maybe people got bored with me talking about politics. It happens. 17, I mean across Twitch and YouTube. Grinding relics. Yeah. I think why not? It's something that doesn't require me to think at all. How is it possible for you to navigate through the complex set of abilities on your screen? I just know them really well. When you know something really well, you don't need to think to navigate it. You can just do it intuitively. It's like if you've never been to a dancing arcade game like Dance Dance Revolution or Pump It Up, you see all those arrows and you go like, oh, what the fuck? When I see them, I go without thinking. I know how to move to win, because it goes subconsciously, because I can read those arrows and I can adjust myself to do whatever is needed. So that's about it. I think I mean, if you play just any game enough, and you get used to it so much that you can do it blindfolded. That's the case for me. That's why I picked this game. For other games, yeah, I would need to think about what I'm doing a bit more. Here, nah, not so much. Okay, Roskomnadzor have forbidden blogs, so I can't even read FF whatever without VPN. What the fuck? I had no idea my blog was banned. I mean, some people told me it was, but then I checked, and for me it works. So I kind of assumed that everything was fine, but if the problem persists, well, it's sad. Next blog entries should probably be posted next week. Well, this week I'm playing this game. Okay. Heard from Scott Ross's one video story about Microsoft and how it simply deprived the Internal Revenue Service of the budget. Because of that, IRC can't audit Microsoft and scoop about their tax evasion. Yeah, so that's the point. Like, the government just lays some new regulations, new taxes, new rules, new laws, and all that. But the big players can always avoid it, and they can actually afford to pay if they get fined or whatever. They always win. Then they can bribe senators and some such. They can always they will always win. And the small guy will always lose because they have no such option. So again, the problem isn't the big corporations. The problem is that they are in bed with the government, that the government enables them. It's on their side and they are on the government's side. And again, if we were talking about Russia, well, I probably needn't remind you that our great social network provides every bit of your data to the authorities that will imprison you for posting a Rammstein music video on your wall. So there. Again, it's when VK was independent, and again, well, check out Telegram. Telegram is independent. Motherfucker. Okay, I'm dying. I'll probably just wait. Telegram is independent. It doesn't do all that, but its founder was forced to just flee the country. He couldn't remain here because the government put pressure on him. And VK, which was stolen from him, well, it's now a part of the government network, and it cannot be trusted at all. So again, the government and the big tech, big business, they either coexist and they are in bed with each other, or the government, if you say that the government should somehow fight the big tech, well, shit. Why do you think it would make anything better? I think it would make everything worse. Personally, I don't use VK at all. Well, I never did. I have registered there, but gosh, I don't read it. I don't post in it. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend using it normally to anyone, because we've seen what happens. We've seen what happens to its users. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if in a few years we'll see the same. Oh wait, I think January 6th purge in the USA is probably done with assistance with Facebook. I think it's already happening. I think they're already jailing people with big tech's assistance. So yeah. And again, look, it's hard to blame the corporations when they are merely using the power and resources that they can use, right? If they won't use the government's resources, provided they can, then someone else's will, their competitors will. So the only answer to this problem is to make it that the government is simply unable to provide these corporations with any power, right? The government has power, and the corporations that are in bed with the government receive some of that power. That's why they do it. So if the government had less power, if the government had less ability to affect the market, well, the corporations would have nothing to do with it. And that's it. So the only answer is you cannot control these corporations, because, well, they will always find a way. They will weasel out of everything. So then what you must do is to reduce the government so much that it will be unable to offer them anything. And that's how you win. The problem is the government is never reduced. It always grows and grows and grows. As I've said today, income tax was temporary measure for a wartime. Where are we now? Yeah. Let's see how it goes. So if Durov now returns to Russia, will he be treated like Navalny? No, I don't think so. Navalny was like a personal enemy of our crazy old man. So that's what he got, but I don't know what I think they would probably approach Durov with some sort of an offer he cannot refuse, let's put it that way. And if he refuses, well, they could probably, yeah, they could probably find something on him. I believe I think it was something about Titov's list. Some person returned to Russia because he was promised, what's the word? Oh my god, I'm forgetting the simplest words. Anyway, he was promised he wouldn't be prosecuted for something he did back in the day. Some economic crime, I believe, or something. Right? Yeah, and it's actually the same word in Russian and English, and I simply forgot it. Sorry. Anyway, he was made a promise. He returned to Russia, and what happened? Well, now he's in jail. Good fucking luck trusting these assholes. Nah. So Navalny was just arrested straight away because he was dangerous. He was deemed dangerous to the regime. Durov probably isn't, but that's not to say he won't be eventually. After all, the Telegram is pretty much #1 safe way for the opposition to chat to each other, right? So I'm pretty sure if Durov returns to Russia, the authorities will demand that he would releases that all of that information. He will refuse, and then, well, we can guess what happens. Let me see. By the way, it's not possible to navigate Twitter without registration now. Yeah, actually, yeah. I can see your page, but cannot read the comments. Yeah, well, I think that's true. That's a bit of a problem for me, because a lot of people have banned me and on Twitter, which is actually a big surprise for me, because I never go to them to tell them how much they suck, even if I think so, right? I don't think that's like, I'm not bullying anyone, I'm not going out there and offending anyone, but I think I'm just on some huge block list for one reason or another, and well, okay, that's on them. So yeah, I sometimes I just try to switch to another browser to read whichever links people are sending me, and that's not really, that doesn't really work, because yeah, can't do much anonymously. Sad. What social network is really good then? I don't know. Is Telegram a social network? I don't think it is. But yeah, I have no good answer for you. I mean, if there was a good alternative to the big and popular social networks, I'm pretty sure people would migrate there by now. Yet here we are. Amnesty. Yes, the word I forgot was amnesty. Sorry. People were promised amnesty when they returned to Russia. They returned to Russia and they received a prison sentence. How government can help to lobby big porn businesses, companies to make Visa, MasterCard monopoly, disable payment for independent porn market? No, okay, I'm not saying everything bad that happens is because of the government, no, but I cannot even comment on the relationship between the government and MasterCard, for example. I don't know. I have no idea what it is. But I'm pretty sure that the duopoly of Visa and MasterCard can only be possible if there are some regulations, some obstacles, artificial obstacles, for those who may decide that they want to create an alternative. Again, I do not know. Someone probably does. But it's usually the case. What I'm saying is usually the case. Okay, what else? Durov and code of his telegram especially is wanted by a large portion of government, another scapegoat of terrorist hideout topic. Yeah. And again, that's great that Durov is ideological libertarian, and his ideology is what keeps Telegram so special. Of course, whatever is out of reach of authoritarians, out of their control, they will deem it terrorists, or I don't know, child pornography, or whatever they will call it. Well, we know that the main point is they simply really don't like that it's out of their control. And of course, we perfectly know that mass media cannot be trusted. That they will lie on behalf of the government or the party or the corporations they are serving, and it has become absolutely obvious in the past days. Sadly, a lot of people still trust the media, and it's really surprising, both here in Russia and in the US, but nothing we can do about it. Speaking of the effectiveness in the government, the best side, Gosuslugi, have sent me the notification regarding the turn of the hot water from July 17th to July 31st. The thing is, they have sent it on the 2nd of August. Well, yeah, that's just... unsurprising. Honestly, the society structure creates new problems at time, but they create new solutions after, sometimes from government regulations like right to repair. What is right to repair? I'm not following. Did you discuss the best country for relocation? I'm not sure we have any. There is no best country for relocation. Everything is very bad. Again, I'm not sure. Maybe, really, maybe Eastern Europe would be okay in a while. Maybe Poland, maybe Czechia. But then again, what do we know English. We don't really speak those languages, even though they are kinda similar to Russian. Still. I remember one story that Ministry of Emergency Situations one issued a storm warning, and in this day there is no storm. Then they accused the meteorological center and bad for. Yeah, well, maybe the meteorologist did make a bad prediction. I don't know. Could be. Right to repair entails that your warranty isn't voided if you need to repair something on your own. Ooh. That sounds nice. Yeah, so you mean that the government mandates your right, and that is a good thing, right? So previously the government didn't insist that you had a right to repair, and now it does, and that gives you more power. Well, I can see where you're coming from, but no, I guess that's a fair point. I mean, I would be against government having the power to enforce that, but it's not that it's a bad thing on its own. It the right to repair, after all, it can be acquired naturally. I mean, you just have to have one big corporation that would say, hey, we give you that right. Like, we say it doesn't void a warranty, and well, there we go. Suddenly its products are more competitive than the others, so the others have to do the same. So all I'm saying is, maybe that's a good idea, but you probably don't really need the government to enforce that. They can't refuse to service you if you repaired your tech by yourself. To be honest, I'm pretty shocked. I didn't realize that could be possible. I mean, it always was warranty void if removed and all that. So naturally, I assumed that if I remove some seal, that yeah, well, that's it. I brought this upon myself. Pretty interesting that it's not the case anymore. That isn't legally binding in the US. Ah, I see. So they put it there to scare people, but you can't really use it in court, right? So yeah, so if they refuse to service you because you just went in the guts of your device, if they refuse to service you, you can take them to court, and they won't be able to use that warranty void as an excuse to not serve you. Ah, man. You know, I talk a lot about politics and stuff, but for a lot of questions, the answer seems to be the court. And I'm not sure how I feel about that personally. I mean, I wouldn't like to go to a court to settle every little stupid dispute. It's hard, it's long, it's really taxing on the nerves. It's apparently expensive in the US. Sounds terrible. Even if you win, it still sounds terrible. And I'm not sure if we can make it less terrible. I would certainly love to make it less terrible. Well, anyway, I guess I've been talking for, what, 3 hours now. If you want to change the subject, I'm all for it. I kind of feel like I'm out of stuff that I wanted to mention myself. So, unless you guys have something interesting to talk about, well, we can probably start wrapping this up. Okay. More often than not, a small guy wins against a tech company or something, they also pay the legal fees on them. Yeah, I guess, but there is still that risk that if you don't win, and how can you be sure that you win, right? And if you don't win, then, well, for the little guy, the legal fees can bankrupt them, I would think. So I would be very, what's the word, wary of going to courts. And gosh, especially over here, my God, I never wanna set a foot in a courtroom again. But if you don't go to courts, how can you protect your rights? Can you even? I don't think so. And again, yeah, I mean, legal fees are one thing, but when do you get the time to sit in courts? It's very time consuming, and you gotta be there. And what if you're working? Where do you find the time to visit the courts if you have a job? Like, okay, sure, legal fees, but what about all the money you won't earn? What about the time you waste? What about the nerves? Oh my God. There are too many downsides, and I'm not sure if it can be improved, or if anyone even has the will to improve that. And yeah, I suppose that's it. If no one has any ideas what we can talk about, I can switch from talking to listening, which is actually preferable for me. I get really tired talking, you know. I'm really introverted, and I don't really like to talk too much. So yeah, I'm pretty good with just switching to listening to podcasts. And by the way, yeah, before we end, if you have any recommendations for me, there are times when I just run out of stuff to listen to. And I don't listen to leftists for a simple reason. They keep saying things that just infuriate me. Like things so stupid and out of touch that I just stop. I stop. So if you have any decent recommendations, they can be in Russian or in English. I'm mostly interested in politics and well, science too, but science can be tricky. I'm not sure if that can be handled interestingly enough in a form of a podcast, but I would love to listen to history podcasts, maybe. That's something I'm interested in, but I don't really have it in my rotation. So yeah, I'm just gonna chill tonight. I'm not doing anything else today, so your recommendations would be very much appreciated. Narrative and apathy. Thank you, but that's that's a good joke. Vlogging through history is a good YouTube channel. Thanks. Yeah, history is something I really need to catch up on. Book backlog. I don't know. For some reason, I don't really what's the word? I don't get what is being said in audiobooks as well as in the podcasts. I'm not sure why exactly. Maybe because in podcasts people actually have some emotions. They are improvising. They are well, they feel like real people talking, you know, and that kind of it helps get their point across. It helps catch their message. It helps actually pay attention to them. Audiobooks are usually just they are so monotonous. They are so monotonous. I can't really focus. I just my attention goes away when I listen to audiobooks. I'm not sure if that's just my problem, but that's how it is for me. Yeah, my mind wanders and I miss stuff that's crucial to the story. Yeah, story. It would be story if I actually wanted to read or listen to fiction. I don't. I'm done with fiction.
Just wanted to say that those new voices suck. Yuri Doggy, I am Doggy.
Thank you. Sophia Norwitz's YouTube channel. Girl's got some great stuff. Oh, well, I did check out some of her videos, but I don't think they're that much different from her articles. And I do read her Twitter. I'm fine with that. I'm not sure her videos are in depth or interesting enough. I think I understand her points and that's cool, but I don't think she can tell me anything I don't really know already. That's the problem. I would like to learn more and not just, you know, listen to the same thing over and over again. Epic History TV? It sounds like epic rap battles of history. But okay, thank you. Join her Discord. That would also give you some English practice, maybe. Yeah, I'm unsure. I don't really chat a lot. That's the thing. Maybe it's a good idea, but I don't know. Does Discord really work if you're over 35? Well, Discord is just a chat app, but I mean, on one hand, it's probably a good idea, but on the other, I know I won't be really into it. I won't be. Well, it's hard for me to just jump into a conversation. I lament the end of forums, because in forums you can just come in anytime and reply whenever you would like, and it would be okay. In Discord you have to be online and you have to participate in the conversation that's going right now, and the conversation is not always that interesting.
Thanks for the English stream. IT was awesome and it's always cool to practice.
Thank you. So yeah, that's why I'm not a big fan of Discord. Besides, if I knew some people there, right? If I would be okay with interacting with people who I know. It's, you know, a psychological thing, maybe an introvert thing. So, talking to strangers is just not something I would enjoy. Let me see. Aha. Should I consider trying the relic grind if I want some sort of relaxing brain dead gameplay for those? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I just, I think I've grinded through an entire relic in like 2 or 3 days, and it's absolutely brain dead. Like, the first step is just buying the relic. The second step is grinding 3 sets of 20 crystals, memories, whatever, and you can get them from fates. So that's what I'm doing. I did like 2/3 of the grind in 2 hours of this particular grind. So it's not terribly fun, but then again, I can always stop. I can chat. I can chill. It doesn't require any party work or anything. Then you'd have to go through the instances. They are a bit harder, and they are a bit, well, anyway, yeah, you grinding is just that. You're doing the same thing over and over, and it's great if you want to listen attentively to something else. Diadem, I would think would be perfect too, but I am not into gathering and crafting and all that. Let me see. I am there. Oh, you are. Well, I'll consider it. Maybe. Not into it. Every class at 80. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm To level every class to 80, you don't have to be into crafting or gathering. Crafting is easily leveled up by mass producing some stuff, and also quests. I simply do the quests for achievements and bingo, I have it. And the gathering, again, gathering is easily leveled up without even switching to those professions. You can, to those classes, you can just buy the stuff and finish the quests and just give it to grant companies and all that. So that's pretty easy. So here's my guide how to level classes you don't like. So yeah. So what you have recommended me is vlogging through history and epic history TV. I hope I'm not missing anything else. If you guys have any other recommendations for me, please say so. I would love to listen to some history channels and yeah, well, maybe politics too. And if you don't have any favorites and don't have any topics for me to discuss, then yeah, that's it. I guess I'll just wait for a couple more minutes. And we'll be done with it. Oh well, let me finish with some roulette. Let me see where it takes me, right? Oh, somewhere boring. Well, alrighty. I bet if I queued as a tank, I would be taken to some extreme fight with newbies, and it would be painful. Dan Carlin's Hardcore History Podcast. Thank you very much. I will definitely check it out. Let me see about that. Did you listen Resonant Arc podcasts about Xenogears? Oh wow, podcasts about Xenogears. No. To be honest, I have pretty much forgotten about Xenogears. I have replayed it like 5 years ago, more than 5 years ago, and I have absolutely no recollection about it again. Well, I'm not about it, but I mean about all the details. So I'm not sure I'm in any position to listen to those podcasts. Oh. My ex-colleague, Nikita Kazimirov, just recently posted a question on Twitter. I didn't bother to check today, but yesterday he asked, like, what is, in your opinion, the best video game story and why? I gotta check what he said, but I would think Xenogears would be my answer, but the answer to why would probably be that it is a huge epic story that involves multiple eras and generations, and characters who are mirror images of each other, living parallel, similar fates, and at the same time it also involves the question of mortality, of godhood, of all that, which are rather good topics. The problem is, okay, it's really hard to sound like not a 15-year-old teenager who is just excited that, whoa, so deep, right? The problem is I have no idea what to put like on second and third place, and generally which video game stories I would like to complement. Really, it's really hard. And I do pay a lot of attention to narrative in games. It's just that my attention isn't really rewarded usually. Yeah, so that's something to think about. Umineko was a disappointment for me, unfortunately. Yeah, I guess that's it. All right, we're wrapping up. The next stream will be on Wednesday. It will be Front Mission 3, as promised. Next Saturday, we will have Fatal Frame 3. And afterwards, the Wednesday after, we will have Siphon Filter 3, most likely. And then we will think about what to play next. I would think that we will have a Wii marathon until the end of the year. And for Wednesdays, well, guess we'll find something. Yeah, thank you all. It was fun. I am really ashamed of myself. My English gets worse and worse, but it is what it is. Thanks to us, thanks to you, and see you all soon. Bye bye.